Beef is one of Netflix's most recent shows, and it's one that certainly caused a storm in being considered one of the best things that has come out this year on the platform. Following the beef that was formed after a moment of road rage between two individuals, we saw both Amy and Danny go on an endless cycle of revenge in order to get one over on each other. Stylistically, this felt like something that hadn't been done on TV in a while, and very much like what you'd expect from something with A24 at the wheel. At the start of every episode, there were pieces of art that would appear along with the episode title, and some of them were extremely powerful and moving, and also supported what we were about to watch. So I thought I'd analyze each individual piece of art and explain what I feel the meaning is. So let's get into it. Here is the meaning of the title sequence art in Beef. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Episode 1. The first episode was titled "The Birds Don't Sing, They Screech in Pain," and this was the piece of artwork that was present when the title appeared. There were a few different things that we could take away from this. Within the first episode, we saw that the beef was formed between the two main characters, Amy and Danny, following the parking lot incident. So the fact that there's a lot of butchered meat and what looks like a cow's head front and center, which would be beef, this is something that's representative of what we saw occurring in the show in this episode. And also what was present throughout the entirety of it, almost like a cover piece. Slightly deeper within the artwork, there are what looks like different classes of people that are present. There was a beggar, workers, and people looking as though they're passing through. I think the two different classes of people could be symbolic of the different backgrounds that both Amy and Danny had in the show, yet the desire to get to the same destination in life, the direction in which everybody was walking in. Episode 2. The second episode was titled "The Rapture of Being Alive," and I thought this was a really powerful piece. With the title insinuating that there is a joy to being alive and the life that one would be living, I believe this piece of art is showing us the conflict that lies present within Amy. She was living her life as if she was happy on the outside, but on the inside she was screaming and wanting to let it all out, something that we did see occur in the episode within the gallery. The figure in the artwork looks as though they're in solitary confinement, as if to imply that their mental state isn't quite where it should be. And the head and face look as though they're looking down towards the floor with an upset look. However, on the back of them, there's a face that's smiling. Something which I think further supports the outlook and front that Amy puts up. A face that she shows everybody despite it not being real. Episode 3. The third episode was titled "I Am Inhabited by a Cry," and it's quite easy to understand why it was called that, because this was the episode where Danny broke down after finding religion again. However, the artwork implies something different, a lot of backstabbing. I think this is highlighting the nature of what we saw both characters undergoing in the episode. We saw Danny being comforted and helped by the members of the church that he was in attendance of. However, he was planning on not being truthful with them and pocketing the money that they were giving him to carry out the repairs, using their kindness as a way of getting something that he wanted, despite them caring for him, hence the going in the back. And then Amy's involvement in this piece would be her trying to work on her relationship with her husband and trying to follow the counselor's advice. But outside of that, continuing to speak with Paul and taking the messaging a step further by sending a photo of herself, and then meeting Paul, showing that she was going behind his back. Episode 4. This episode was titled "Just Not All at the Same Time," and I got quite a sad feeling from this piece. Unlike the positive transformation that the character Amy underwent in the episode with the drastic change of her appearance following her encounter with Paul, I feel this image is symbolic of change. The figure's clothing is torn, it's shredded, and it looks like there's barely any left, and she seems as though she's going to be getting into a pool of some kind. I feel this is representative of the change that we saw Amy undergo in that episode, and the different appearance that she had by the end of it. The face is a completely different shade to the rest of the body. It's grey and almost dead behind the eyes, a mood in which we saw Amy all throughout the show. Episode 5. The fifth episode was titled "Such Inward Secret Creatures," and the artwork definitely sums it up. This image represents the family at hand and all of the different secrets and lies that were present within the show. We had Amy cheating on her husband in this episode, us finding out that George was speaking with Mia, Fumi being broke and not telling anybody about it, and also Naomi looking as though she was going to go behind Amy's back. So the facades that they all put up and the fronts that they had were things that were eating away at their faces, and showing that they were actually two-faced, which is supported by the different sets of eyes. Episode 6. The next episode was titled We Draw a Magic Circle, and the piece of art that accompanied it most certainly suited the mood that was present within it. Within this episode, we saw the beef being put to bed for the first time, and it looked like family life and happiness was going to be present. This was due to George cutting things off with Mia, Danny and Paul reconciling, Danny focusing more of his efforts in the church, and also Amy and Danny looking as though they were going to be making amends and calling it a day with holding a grudge. This painting is almost in the same style as what we saw Junie's artwork being like, so I think it's symbolic of growth, starting again, and happiness, hence the bright colours and use of flowers, fruit and wildlife. With it being on a dark background, I think it does show that although on the forefront, happiness is something that looks as though it's going to be met, I feel the hidden secrets such as Danny causing his cousin to go to jail and Amy cheating on George are still there, showing that dark things are still to come. Episode 7. The 7th episode of the show was called I Am a Cage, and the piece of artwork that accompanied it was a very interesting one. With what looked like a lot of legs being entangled, it highlighted the trapped nature of the two main characters, and how their own actions are the very things that cause them to feel as though they are their own cage. For example, the episode was set 8 months later and the both of them were thriving. However, it was their own actions from the past that was causing their lives to unravel, meaning they would forever be trapped due to the things that they'd done, such as Amy being intimate with Paul, which caused George to leave her, and also Danny doing his own wiring to a non-professional standard, which caused the dream home that he worked for so his parents would come over to the States to be burned down. Episode 8. The 8th episode was titled Drama of Original Choice, and the piece of art is one that contained 2 different versions. There was a bright coloured version, and then there was an inverted version that appeared shortly afterwards. With there being 3 children that were in the first version of the artwork, I believe this is showing us Amy, Danny and Paul as children. With the eyes cutting through, it showed us that they saw things that impacted them as they were growing up. This episode saw us go back to all of their childhoods and younger years, which showed us that they did experience different things that led them to be where they were in the present day. The alternative version of the artwork was symbolic of the darkness that was present in their younger years. For example, Amy seeing her father cheating on her mother, and also Danny being bullied at a young age. Episode 9. The penultimate episode was called The Great Fabricator, and this was a really dark piece. It looked as though it was a dark forest of trees that contained eyes on them as if to imply that it was always watching. They also had mouths embedded on them too. The most interesting part about this piece though was the 2 individuals that were within the forest, and they looked as if they were comforting one another. I feel as though this is symbolic of the love that both George and Amy had for Junie, but I would say that it's more leaning towards representing George and June, and Amy is most likely the one that is slightly over to the right and lurking in the darkness, on her own, showing that she's not as involved in her daughter's life following the events that happened. Episode 10. The final episode of the season was called Figures of Light, and this piece of artwork definitely embodied it. The dark individual representing both Danny and Amy throughout the entirety of the show, allowing the colour to pour out of it, representing the conversation that we saw happening within the final episode when they believed that they were dying, when in actual fact they weren't. They were seeing each other for the individuals that they actually were, no longer clouded by the judgment, rage and anger that they held towards each other. They were both the same as each other, hence why there was only one individual in the artwork. The incorporation of art in this show is so memorable, and I'm a huge fan of the pieces that they chose. Whilst it's not been confirmed what the actual meaning of the pieces of art are, this is how I feel it could be interpreted. So, there you have it, the meaning of the title sequence art in Beef. If you want to see more videos such as endings explained, theories and predictions and character breakdowns, then click on the I button. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @BrainPilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What do you think the artwork means? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.